Hey, what's up, you guys, and welcome back to Model Behavior. It's Macy. I sound a little bit better than last week, so that's good, but I'm still pretty clogged up. But in any case, the bright side of me being sick all last week is I did get through the entire Fourth Wing book in 2 days, which if you know, I know all of you guys know what Fourth Wing is. It's like one of those book talk book series. It's like on the same level as A Court of Roses and A Court of Thorns and Roses, which, by the way, I do have that one on hold at the library, and it's a 3-month long waiting list. So anyways, the reason why I'm immediately thinking about that is because I have really gotten back into reading before bed, which is great because I recently refound my tablet. And so I have been able to just, if you don't know what Libby is, I've been able to really get on my Libby grind. Basically, you can go into your local public library and get a library card, and then you get the app called Libby, and you can just put in your library card information, and you can get like Kindle books on your tablet. So you don't even have to go to the library to get books. And so that's been fun for me. I was on a waiting list. I think it was like a month waiting list for Iron Flame, which is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. And I unexpectedly was able to get it a couple days ago, but you only can have the book for 21 days. So I did stay up a little bit too late last night. I think I'm on like chapter 10 now, which if you've read these books, you know it's like easy reading. I'm a simple woman, but it's been good so far. I just kind of automatically started ranting. Anyways, I have been having a really good week. It's currently snowing here, which is kind of a bummer, but it's not upsetting me as much as I thought it would, because it's like heavy snow. So I know that it's going to like melt soon, and that feels good. I don't know. A few weeks ago, the birds started chirping again as I'm waking up in the morning, and that just really healed something inside of me. I know you guys heard me complain so much earlier this winter about the weather and how bad it was. I even complained about it last week, even though it was amazingly beautiful here. But this is not getting me down as much as I thought it would. It's Friday right now, and I am recording before I have to head to a tennis tournament. So there's mini tournaments that this club that I used to play out of puts on, and so I got invited to play in this tournament, and it's my first time playing competitive tennis in about a month, I would say, which is a long time for me to go without playing tennis. If you play tennis, you know that if you don't play, you lose it pretty easily. So I'm a little nervous. We'll see how this goes, but it'll be fun. I am a part of a couple league teams, so I play in a couple of different leagues, and my first match for league is on Tuesday. And so 2 years ago, I was playing in a lower division, and then I got moved up. And so now this higher division is a lot more competitive. So I'm I have to play a couple of times before Tuesday, or else I'm just going to get my shit rocked. It's not going to be pretty, and I don't want to get hit in the face or die. So I need to get my rhythm back, get my reflexes back. So it's kind of good because it prevents me from rambling too much. Last week's episode being 42 minutes long was just a little bit too much. I really thought that I didn't talk for that long, but as it turns out, I did. That's what happens when you're at home for an entire week without any human interaction. You just yap. So for this week, I don't have any major updates. Like I said, I've just been working a lot. I just got back from happy hour with my friend Sauna. There's this new place that opened up in Fort Collins called Sugar Salt Sand, and it's a rooftop situation. Obviously it's snowy, so we couldn't sit outside, but it's so cool in there. The vibe is so cool. It's a beachy, islandy type vibe, but it's really, really cool. So I will definitely be going back. And our server was so nice. He was great. So we'll definitely be going back. So I just got back from that, and then I'm recording, and then I'm going to go to tennis. My friend Kate might spend the night tonight, which I'm kind of excited about. So I think we're going to play the tournament. And then she just texted me right before I started filming, asking me if I wanted to go out after, and I was like, let's do it, girl. Okay, actually, I have to address a couple of things first. So in episode 10, when I introduced the length and width report, which I should give you a length and width report today, obviously it was a bit controversial. I had a couple people in my life reach out to me and say hey, this is maybe not the best look, and I'm super on the fence about it. I kind of see where they're coming from. Also, it's from a professional perspective, should I really be talking about schlongs on the internet? Probably not, but at the same time, I'm this is happening to me. Why can't I just say that it's happening to me? I feel Sorry, I'm looking at the camera and I'm realizing my striped shirt with like the chevron print beanbag is like a little bit tough. So if you're watching on video, I'm sorry for the optical illusion, but I know most of you listen, so it's a moot point. But anyways, about the length and width report, like I kind of see where they're coming from a professional standpoint, but at the same time, I'm like, this is happening to me. And I feel like so many times as women, I'm making this like feminist, but like so many times as women, bad stuff happens to us, or like men do stupid shit to us, and we're just supposed to not talk about it. It's like, no, that's not ladylike to talk about it. And I'm like, well, it's not ladylike for them to do it in the first place. So like, why do I have to be the one that is just like pretend like this isn't happening? Anyways, girl, I'm like, my female rage is like, I'm obviously gonna like leave the episode up, but I did take a couple of my reels down because I applied for 2 jobs this week, and I'm like, on the off chance that they find my social media, I don't want them seeing this. So length and width report is still a thing, but I don't think I'm going to be making like cuts of it for my social media because I know that you guys that listen are like my friends and you probably already know a lot of this stuff. The people that see it on Instagram are definitely not listening to my podcast. So it's like, I don't know. Anyways, even though I think it's hilarious. So actually, before I get into the Q&A, let me give you a quick length and width report. And I kind of want to like make the length and width report rather than just being like, who's in my DMs this week, just like stuff that's happening with men. Okay. I think that if we just make it broader and be like stuff that's been happening to me, I think that there's a lot of content there, honestly. And I never want to like talk about a guy that I'm seeing that I actually like, because I feel like that's kind of disrespectful. The only men that I have talked about on this podcast are men that like I went on a date with, and I'm like, there's no way that this is working. And I also like, I don't know them well enough to where they would like be able to like listen to this and be like, oh my gosh, you're dragging me. I'm not saying I'm gonna stop, but like I just kind of want to keep it a little bit more vague. In any case, I don't know why I had that like random spurt of foot pic requests, but it was literally like just a solid 2 weeks of just foot pic requests, and none of the other guys. I made jokes to a couple of them about like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, you better pay me. And then they just never answer. I'm telling you, like being a man is the most simple thing in the world. And I feel bad saying that because like I do have a lot of guy friends that have a lot of depth and are like very thoughtful and caring. And obviously I have like my brothers and things like that. But just so many of these men just do not know how to act. Like they were not raised right. Okay, so let's get into these questions because it is 5:48 and I need to start getting ready in like 15 minutes. So I need to go to the courts, get a good warm up in. I don't know. I need to do my hair cute. There's things that need to happen before we can play tennis well. So I asked you guys on Instagram to just ask me a couple questions about anything. And so I had a few of you ask questions. So I figured I could answer those today. So the first question I got was, what was your favorite thing about living in Wyoming? I love that question. I lived in Wyoming for 5 years, and at that point I was in grad school, and like my grad school is just very, very hard. First of all, like if you're doing a PhD, there's no way around it. It's very hard. There's a lot of heartbreak. There's a lot of frustration. And you're making no money. Like I was so broke when I was in grad school. It was insane. Like my car broke down and I couldn't afford to fix it. So I rode my bike in the middle of winter for 6 months. I rode my bike to the grocery store because they didn't have Instacart at the time. I put zip tires on my tires to help me grip. I fell off my bike so many times. I literally wore clear ski goggles to school. I know this sounds so nerdy, but let me tell you, in Laramie, if you rode a bike of any kind, you were cool. Okay. You know how motorcyclists, when they pass each other on the highway and they give each other like the little like motorcycle wave? That happened to me on my bike, on my little purple Walmart bike with my ski goggles and my zip ties, okay? And that, I will never forget the feeling, okay? So you guys are like, wow, that's so nerdy. It wasn't nerdy in Laramie, okay? It was low-key cool if you rode your bike in the winter. People were like, wow, she's hardcore. But in reality, my car was just broken down and I couldn't afford to fix it. But that being said, I loved living in Wyoming because of the people. So I was living in like Laramie is kind of isolated and the roads close a lot, so you get stuck a lot, so you can't really like leave, and especially this time of year, absolutely not. Like the snow is so bad, so that was very tough for me. But especially like early grad school, I had a really, really, really good friend group and we had so much fun. When you live in a small town like that, you just get really creative with things to do. And so I was thinking about this the other day, but this group of friends that I had, they were always just doing the most random stuff. Like I just remember one day waking up and like getting a call and being like, hey, we're going ice fishing today. None of us have gone ice fishing, but we borrowed equipment and we're going to go ice fishing. And just like stuff like that. It was just always so much fun. Or like, hey, we're going to do a half day of skiing. And it was like the ski hill there was like kind of, It's not crappy. I don't want to like crap on that ski hill because I do really like it, but it's like a beginner hill. But it used to be that you could get a student half day ticket for $25, which you cannot beat, okay? Especially in this economy. They don't have that anymore. Post COVID, they got rid of half day tickets, which I think is so stupid. It's like, because we had a global pandemic, we're just going to make things harder for you. That's like what every business said. Like, we're going to get rid of our happy hour because of the global pandemic. It's like, I know you have to pull a profit, but like you have to eventually introduce happy hour again. Like, you have to give people a reason to live. Jeez Louise. I haven't even said anything about how I liked living in Wyoming, except for that the people were really nice. And the people were really nice. And I did love it because my life was very, very simple. Like, because you don't have a lot of money, you obviously, it's like being in college, you just like get creative with things to do. But also there was never any pressure to like keep up with the Joneses. Like, I wasn't like, oh, I need to dress a specific way, or like, oh, I should be embarrassed that I'm riding my bike in the winter right now. Like, it wasn't like that at all. And it was just very genuine people that just like liked you for who you were as a person. And I have like a lot of really fond memories of living in Laramie. That being said, when I was in grad school, I had a boyfriend for like 4 out of the 5 years that I was in grad school. And so a lot of my memories are like tied to him. And I did have really good memories with him there as well. I think if I wasn't in a relationship during that time, I still would have really, really enjoyed living there just because of my friend group. Grad school is weird because everybody defends and leaves at different times. So our friend group, our solid friend group, was really only together for like 2 years. And then people started graduating and leaving. And so that was kind of tough. But I will say those first couple years of grad school, I had a really, really good friend group through grad school. I had a really good friend group through tennis. And it was just a lot of fun. So I have very fond memories of living in Wyoming. And I did go back. I think I talked to you guys about this, but I did go back probably like a month ago because Lindsay's dad is a professor at UW. And so she was there visiting him. And so I went up there and met up with them and went to a UW basketball game. And we went to like my favorite restaurant there. They have this vegetarian/vegan restaurant called Sweet Melissa's. You're like, why does Laramie, Wyoming have a vegan restaurant? It's because it's probably the most popular restaurant in town. Okay, they have these cauliflower wings that are just out of this world. They have incredible cocktails, and it's just like, it's the spot. Okay, so we went to Sweet Mel's, and I was super happy about that. So yeah, I loved living in Wyoming, and the friendships that I made there, I know I will have for like the rest of my life. So yeah, I love it. And I love the state of Wyoming as a whole too. It's just there's not that many people that live there, so it just feels very like wild. I don't know. I love it. I love it. Okay. Couple more questions. Okay, I have a couple about like personal growth and like mindset. So how do you manage stress when deadlines, workouts, and social plans collide? So I've always been the kind of person that has like really bad FOMO. I love a good like girls' night. I love a good group get together, and I will make every effort to be there. So I don't often say no to those things. But sometimes when you work in research, a lot of your deadlines are like self-motivated. Like you have to like set deadlines for yourself and like make experiments and like push yourself. Like there's not a lot of people being like, hey, you have to get this done, because you still get paid the same amount and you could either get a lot done or not very much done. And it really depends on your supervisor. My supervisor is very hands off, so I do have to be a lot more independent with that stuff. So I have to be very disciplined about not letting my work go by the wayside. Like if I'm like, oh, I really want to do like this, a spot opened up in this core power class, but it's at like 2:30, because that's how research is. Like it's not necessarily a 9 to 5. Like it is, but you don't have to be there. I treat it like a 9 to 5 as much as I can. But if I want to do that workout class, I'm like, okay, I have to get these things done at work first. And like, no one's there telling me I have to get them done, but like I want to get them done, because like especially when you have side hustles, like with modeling, especially when I first started modeling and I was working a lot, like it was very important to me that my career always came first. And I was like, no, this is fun, but you need to spend more time on your career. And you can't be going to every single casting that gets offered to you. Because at first I was going to every single casting, but obviously all that stuff is down in Denver. So I can't just like pop over to a casting and then come back. It's an hour drives each way. So I have to like plan an afternoon. Like I'm doing that on Monday. I have to go down to Denver for a workshop and with my agency. And I'm just like planning how I'm going to get everything done before I leave. So that's really important to me, is like setting like mental deadlines and being like, you can't do this unless you do this, and just always prioritizing like my career over like my other jobs that I have. And even like when I go and teach in the summer, that's an adjunct position through University of Montana. So it's a completely different university. I'm on a completely different payroll there. But even then being like, I need to prioritize getting things done at my full-time job. So like on the weekends there, at the field station can be really easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to go fishing, which I try to do, okay, because I value and cherish my time in Montana so much. And I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do that, especially with my like next career move. So I do not take that for granted. But at the same time, it's like, no, I need to spend 3 hours working on this research proposal for my CSU job first. And I think as a woman, but like, I don't know. I love my little treats. And so I love having multiple jobs. I love having multiple streams of income. Obviously, it makes taxes pretty confusing. Like I have 3 jobs in 2 different states. So it can get a little bit complicated, but I think I'm getting the hang of filing my taxes. I always do it myself because I have not been able to find an accountant. And I feel like I should at some point, maybe when I get more in investments. But it's starting to get complicated and I'm like looking for an accountant, but they're hard to find. They're very, very hard to find. So I've just been doing it myself. Anyways, also that reminds me, hope you got your taxes turned in this week. Anyways, so yeah, so I would say that that's the main thing, is making sure I prioritize my like full-time job. And just because I have flexibility and freedom, not like taking advantage of it, and making sure that I'm, you know, a good, solid employee. Okay, let's see. Okay. What morning ritual sets you up for a productive day? I love this question. That's why I'm answering it. I'm a very routine-oriented person. Lately, I've been doing 6 a.m. workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes they're at 5:30 a.m. I exclusively work out through ClassPass. It's really good here in Fort Collins. Like your money goes really far. So there's a couple different Legree studios that I rotate between here, just depending on the classes that I can get into. And then I also do Cycle Bar once a week. I love Cycle Bar, but it is very stressful on your body. It is very, very hardcore cardio, and it's really good. If I do it once a week, I feel my best. I feel like it's really good for cardiovascular, obviously conditioning. But if I'm doing it more than once a week, even like twice, one time I did it 3 times a week, my body was like breaking down, okay? And I'm just like, my optimal split is doing Pilates or Legree like 4 times a week, Cycle Bar once a week, and then the 6th day, I'll usually do like a core power or like try out a new studio or something. And it's always really fun. So I am usually doing classes 6 times a week, which I feel very blessed that I'm in a position to be able to do that, to be able to afford it, and then also be able to like do it through ClassPass, because I would not be able to afford it otherwise, because boutique fitness studio memberships are expensive. Like you could expect to pay minimum $180 for a membership at any of those studios. And so I pay $75 a month, which is cheaper than my gym membership that I used to have was. And I'm getting all these classes, and I've been making so many friends through those classes. So anyways, I try to prioritize a morning workout if I can, but Cycle Bar and some of the other classes I like to do are sometimes not in the morning. But Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I'm always at Nourish doing Legree. And so I love working out in the morning. Every time I work out in the morning, I have the best day. I don't know. It's just my brain is awake, all of that stuff. So I usually get up at around 5, go to my workout at 6. And then when I come back, I eat breakfast, clean up, get ready for the day. And then I always do my Bible time. So I have like this little it's like a little devotional called Jesus Calling. I really love it. And so then you read the little blurb, and then you have a couple scriptures that you read. But usually what I'll do is I'll pick one of the scriptures and then just like read the entire chapter to get context and stuff. And that's been really good. And then I'll do like a 5-minute journal afterwards. And 5-minute journals are great. I'm not a super big journaler, but basically there's a few prompts that you answer that are really easy to fill in. And then there's a little like blurb, that like prompt that you can answer. And it's just like really small. So it's nice because you can get it done kind of fast. So I do that every morning. And then that's pretty much it. And then my big ritual is once I go to school, I like park in the parking garage, and then my building is a little bit of a walk away from there. So I always put my headphones in, and like, I love that part. I love listening to music when I'm walking around on campus, but there's a reason why Don't Ya by the Pussycat Dolls was my #1 song on my Spotify Wrapped last year. And it was because of my little walking on campus moment that I do every single day. I love listening to that song while I'm walking on campus. It used to be Fancy by Iggy Azalea when I was in college. Like that was my walking around campus song, was I'm so fancy. But there's something about Don't You Wish Your Girlfriend Was Hot Like Me that just hits, okay? Like Thursday morning, you're feeling a little gross. You turn on the Pussycat Dolls. I am ready to extract some DNA. I am ready to have high-level conversations with my coworkers. Like, you cannot stop me. So I would not be surprised if that's my #1 song again this year. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question because I've been yapping. Let's pick an interesting one. Sorry, they're all interesting, but okay, someone did ask, And I don't want to get like labeled as someone that only dates athletes, okay? Because I definitely don't. But I feel like a lot of my craziest stories, dating stories, come from dating athletes or like public figures. So like that's what I talk about. I have more, but I'm just like figuring out if and when I should tell those stories. I think I will if it's like organic and it's like in the context of a bigger discussion, but I don't want to just be like airing out dirty laundry just to air it out. And I will always do my best to keep these people anonymous. Like if I think that they're like, there's a way that you could even potentially find out who they are, I wouldn't do it. Even with like my story about NBA guy, I'm still like, there's no way that you guys would guess who it is. So we're safe there. I never want like, I don't know, I don't want to like call people out like that, no matter how bad they are. But someone did ask, what unique pressures do you think come with dating pro athletes? And this is something like my thoughts on this have evolved a lot, especially within the last year. But I do think when you date a pro athlete, it's very difficult because you have to make your whole life about that person. They live a very unstable, unpredictable life. So you could be living in some place for 8 months and then the off season you live someplace else and then he could get traded, especially if you're not like a franchise player, even if you're like the sixth man coming off the bench, like for basketball, for example, there's still a chance that you could only get like a 1-year contract here, 1-year contract there. There's a chance that you could get put down to the G League or development league or the AHL or anything of that nature. So it's very, and then your income as a result is very variable from year to year. So a lot of times, unless you're like a franchise athlete, like you are not going to get the contracts that allow you to stay in a certain place, as well as like most of these guys don't live in the same city that they play in. They'll usually go someplace else. Usually that's closer to their families or whatever in the off season. So I think it is a very unstable lifestyle. And so there are very few career paths that you as a partner could have that are compatible with dating a pro athlete. Most of the time you either have to work remotely or you work. That's why a lot of these girls do work in social media or they just don't have jobs. And I think if your partner is doing well enough, that's totally fine. But even with like some of the girlfriends that I met like this last year, these guys were not making very much money, okay, on this hockey team. And like these girls still didn't have jobs because they couldn't, but they're like, I have to like be with my man. But I'm like, girl, how are you guys living off of this salary? Like it's insane. And I mean, I don't hate to bring that up because I think it's something that a lot of girls don't think about. They're like, oh my gosh, athletes are so hot, which I'm like, valid. But it is just like a very unstable lifestyle. And ultimately, I'm like, unless you're with someone that is very ambitious and is like, I have plans for after my sport or something like that, I think it can be really tough because obviously these sports don't last forever, especially in a lot of sports. The shelf life of a professional athlete is very, very short. Okay. So like you're not going to be in it for very long, but at the same time, you have to get to a point with your sport where it's like you're so obsessed with it that that's why you become one of the best. That's the only way. You have to make it your entire life. So you don't really it takes a very special person to be able to put their all into something like that, but also develop like side hustles so that when they transition into no longer being an athlete, they don't just like crash out. And I mean, you see that in college athletes as well, like especially if you are like a contributor, like 4-year starter or whatever, when you're suddenly not playing that sport anymore, because it does truly take up your entire life. Like I don't think you guys understand how much work it is, especially in like even in college, like it is so much work. Like you're spending like minimum like 6 hours a day on your sport, whether that's like meetings or film or practice or lift or even treatment. Like I would count that minimum 6 hours a day. And then on top of that, you have to fit in your classes and like internships if you have them. And it is just like you do not have a second to breathe. But I also think that like for me, that's why I am so good at time management and juggling all these things at once, is because I learned that skill. I had to in college. And also, especially if you're like a high achieving academically, but you're also an athlete, that takes a very special person. But anyways, so professional athletes, it's similar minus the classes. So you have to they have to make their whole lives about this sport. It's like a non-negotiable, but it does make the transition to life after their sport very, very difficult. So you have to just be prepared for like what is going to happen after. And am I seeing someone who can put their all into this sport, but also have the foresight to like start building something for themselves afterwards? I could talk about this forever, honestly. So some of the other unique pressures that I think a lot of people hear about is there's like a very high rate of infidelity among professional athletes, male professional athletes. I'm only talking about male professional athletes, by the way. Not to say that women couldn't do that, but like a lot less common. And I do think it's just because, like, especially in the US, we like idolize these male athletes, okay? Like, they have so much glory, that they get so much glory. Like, it's insane at any level. And you definitely don't see that as much with female athletes. Although I'm very happy with how the landscape of female professional athletics is changing. And some people are like, yeah, like, for example, who got drafted first? Paige Beckers went number 1 in the WNBA draft. Paige Beckers got drafted number 1, and her contract amount is $250K. And you're like, okay, that's nothing compared to male athletes, but also the WNBA season is a lot shorter. I think when the WNBA was first established, I think it was first established in like 1996 or something. I read Lisa Leslie's autobiography when I was younger, and I'm obsessed with her. It's such a good book too. Would highly recommend still reading Lisa Leslie's autobiography, but she talked a lot about the establishment of the league and stuff like that. She was like one of the first female professional basketball players in the US, and just a legend. But anyways, like the season, they can't have the season be very long because like viewership is not very high. But I do think like something that you have to make professional athletics an experience, right? So if you have a higher budget for things like in-game entertainment and like marketing, presentation, getting like these women on like shows, like talk shows or like podcasts or something to just really increase the hype around the sport, I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman. I still think that the viewership, like the economy of female professional athletics could really, really change. And I think it is changing. Thankfully, with the new class of female basketball players in particular in the last few years, it's been insane. And then also like with rugby, with like Ilona Maher, I think if you have these women that can develop more of like a public persona, I think that in that way, and it's a little bit different from men because you don't see all these men being like huge social media stars, but I do think that women can leverage that in order to like increase interest and viewership in female professional athletics. This has nothing to do with the question. I just thought of it because I'm like, male athletes cheat though, and the reason why they do it, okay, and this is not all athletes, and I want to say that, but from what I've seen and from what I've experienced with just a couple of them is that they have to be with someone who like really feeds their ego because their whole life is about this sport and they don't really have the capacity a lot of time, and this is just like kind of men in general, they don't really have the capacity to support another successful, ambitious person. So like if you have a lot going for yourself, especially with the lifestyle, it's not very compatible. So a lot of times you do have to give up a lot in order to be with the person. And I think that there's a lot of women that are willing to do that, especially like if he's making good money. Like I think it's fine. But these guys are essentially traveling for 9 months out of the year for work. And there's a lot of time away. And so unless you're literally traveling with them to all of their games, like not that you should have to, by the way, but unless you're doing that, like they're away a lot. And so I think that it just I don't think it's athletics in and of itself that causes the cheating. I think that when you are a public figure and you're someone that receives a lot of glory and a lot of recognition for what you do, it just brings out negative traits that are already there. So like if this man and I really truly think this because I think that if a lot of guys would cheat, they just don't have the options or the opportunity to. And that sounds bad, but I think it's just a character thing. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, like regardless of who you're dating. So yeah, unique pressures. I think like the cheating thing is something you have to be aware of. And I think that's why it's really important to only select guys that have, you know, the bigger picture in mind of like, what's my life going to look like after this? What kind of partner do I want to be? Just emotional intelligence. And then also the traveling for work and the career incompatibilities is like something that is huge that, you know, my lifestyle allows for me to travel a lot. My career allows me to travel a lot, but even then it's not as much as a lot of guys would like because again, it comes down to proximity. Everybody that said that proximity is not a factor and the most important factor in relationships on my poll on Instagram, this is regarding last week's episode, were women. Like women were like, yeah, we don't care about proximity. And almost every single guy that answered my poll said, yes, proximity is the number one factor. And I was like, see, I'm not wrong. I'm not crazy. I'm not just making assumptions. Literally, I have data right here. So I think especially with male athletes, proximity, like even more so because that's the number one factor that they need. They need someone there with them all the time. And I'm not saying it's all professional athletes. Like I said, it just is most of them. So unless you can like either work a career that allows you to be with them all the time and live wherever they are and move every 6 to 8 months. Um, or if you just don't have a job, like then that works. But there's a reason why you don't see like all these diverse career types in, girlfriends and wives of professional athletes. And it's because like the lifestyle and like the type of guy usually that is a professional athlete requires a woman that's always, always, always there. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you guys have a really good weekend. Obviously, I post these on Tuesdays, so I hope that you're having a good week. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye.